Hey guys, I'm really excited about today's guest, Brandon Barnes, because I feel like a lot of you are in his shoes where he was in 2015 as a struggling corporate guy trying to chase that hamster wheel, go up the ladder, chasing that carrot. And he found his way into wholesaling and now has never looked back, 7 figures within his first 3 years. We're going to talk to him right now on the Fearless Investor podcast. Hey, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You're listening to me, Kyle Stanley. And if you haven't already, make sure that you are subscribed here on the YouTube channel and the podcast. And if you haven't followed us on Instagram, make sure to go ahead and do that at Fearless Kyle. Would love to be able to connect with you. Getting a lot of people asking about Airbnb these days. I feel like a lot of people are getting their what do you want to call it, confidence back in Airbnb. And honestly, like most markets that I've seen never really took a huge dip, maybe for a couple months, but everything seems to be kind of, knock on wood, crossing my fingers, back to quote unquote normal. But getting a lot of people. And so I would just really encourage you to connect with me, but we have a free Facebook group as well. If you haven't joined that, Airbnb Masterminds, and you'll see just tons of free content, tons of free resources as well. So just join there and we'd love to be able to see you. Anyway, let's get to it now. Brandon Barnes, I'm really excited about this guy. I think he's very relatable to a lot of you. Just chasing that carrot and really trying to figure out, like, how am I going to get to the top of the corporate ladder? Fired a couple times, and then just basically one day said, enough's enough. I need to take control of my life. And this whole real estate thing sounds pretty good. And before you know it, he's making 6 figures, then 7 figures. Now he's got his own coaching program. I mean, the guy is a true inspiration for success in real estate. And I'm excited for you to hear his story today on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Let's get to it now with Brandon Barnes. All right, ready to rock and roll with Brandon Barnes, the founder of Mighty Estates, coming in from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much, Brandon, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So as always, got to ask the question, what is your most interesting or strangest real estate investing story?
Yeah, look, I haven't told this story in a while.
Okay.
But super funny story. I thought it was, gonna really blow up the deal, but I had a deal with a homeowner in Clayton County here, South Atlanta. And it was early on, my very first year doing deals. And I went by the property. I actually helped the guy clear some of the junk out of the home. He had some nasty tenants. And the neighbor came over and asked me if he could take a mattress that was just like sitting on the floor. I said, yeah, I guess, sure. And big no, guys, don't ever take anything out of anybody's house. But like literally, I paid hundreds of dollars to have the house trashed out for him. So I thought, hey, everything's completely trashed. He knows a neighbor. He's probably cool with it. And the seller came back and was like, where's my mattress? Get it back. Where's my?
No.
And so I started looking on like Let's Go, Craigslist. Ultimately, I ended up calling around. I had the bright idea to ask a hotel if they had any old mattresses. And so I had to drive down one highway exit, and there was this nasty dumpster area with some old mattresses, bugs and stuff in it. And I literally loaded it on top of my 07 Toyota Avalon and drove at 5 miles an hour down the highway, holding on to this mattress, probably bugs all in it, to get it back to this house and place that mattress back at the seller's house so that we could go to close. And it worked. He was, he made it seem like he wasn't going to show up to closing. But then he actually called the closing attorney and said, when is Brandon coming? And my appointment was for 1. So he came early, signed all his paperwork, and was gone by the time I got there. But we closed the deal, and the rest is history.
The things we'll do to close a deal. That's that's definitely a new one. I haven't heard that one yet. Well, hey, let's jump into it, Brandon. I'm excited to have you on the show here. You've got a lot of value to offer to our clients, our audience. And so I wanted to just, kind of start from the beginning, give us a little bit of background and context. What was life like for Brandon before real estate?
Yeah, look, I always had this perfect idea and this perfect dream in mind of climbing the corporate ladder. My dad was in corporate America, finance guy. But I was always wanting to, work with my hands, work with people, problem solve. And so I went to Purdue University. I transferred to Purdue University and interned with Heinz right out of the gate. I did an entrepreneurship certificate program at Purdue because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I just felt like the perfect startup opportunity was going to fall in my lap. Well, fast forward, I get out of Purdue, I work a few jobs with Heinz, and then they sent me out to Illinois, Iowa to work in their plant. Well, Heinz got bought out on Valentine's Day 2013.
Okay.
And then I found a local job with the Kraft Oscar Mayer company, and then they got bought out by the same company.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
was stuck there for a few years, working in a plant as a production supervisor, working night shift, which sucked. I had an opportunity to come back to Atlanta to work with a small gelato company, worked for them for a summer, then and they got bought out. And but they also fired me.
Okay.
And this was literally 2 weeks after getting married to my wife,
Oh my gosh.
which we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary. And I called my buddy that I met in Pittsburgh, hey, what's that real estate thing all about? And he said, man, look, I moved to Atlanta, come by. I'm in this program, Wholesaling Inc. Tom Kroll is like a great mentor. Come by, we'll drive for dollars together. And I did that. I saw the opportunity. I loved it. And so January 2016, right after New Year's, I jumped in full force, wholesaling and learning everything that there was to know about wholesaling. And I've never looked back since that moment.
You said 2014?
16,
Oh,
sorry,
16. Okay, sorry. Sorry. So
2016.
so that's kind of like right when the market was starting to recover, right? So what was that like jumping in at that time? Especially like talking to sellers as they're seeing prices go back up with homes.
Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
It wasn't, complete pandemonium at that time. It just seemed like, business was good, business was strong. I could do deals, I could offer decent prices to homeowners. And they were able to, make some money, but then also leave enough money on the table for a cash buyer to pick it up. I started off with sending a lot of direct mail, and
Mm.
that always has its up and downs. But I found an opportunity to get into probates early on, and then eventually cold calling in 2017 before that blew up.
Okay.
So it was, I didn't know that I didn't see the struggle of the real
Yeah.
estate investor that was that post 2008. It just seemed like a good business to be in, and
Cool.
people were responsive.
Okay. So, I mean, you were kind of trying to climb this corporate ladder, but at the same time, it sounds like it kind of turned into a hamster wheel with just going from place to place, things getting bought out, changing of admin at the top. And so, I mean, what was that like? Just what was the frustrations that you had going on during that time? And, had you been thinking about in the back of your mind starting a business?
Yeah, I hadn't, because when I was going to Heinz, I was able to be part of their leadership development program. And so it was 6-month rotations into different roles for 3 years. And I was going to be able to come out as a manager. So I just knew, look, I was going to be on this fast track to middle management, ultimately upper management. And then as things started to shift and those opportunities disappeared through, acquisitions, I just kind of rolled with it. But I still, I was in my mid 20s, younger in mid 20s. And I was still committed to climbing the corporate ladder, and I was going to get my big break at some point. But me and my wife also had a young kid. So I was just living life. But it was a lot of mediocrity, in my life because, I ended up being a production supervisor and not on that management fast track.
Mm,
And I'm
yeah.
working in a plant with, $15 an hour employees, and, hanging out with them. And it just was not a good, wasn't good for my career progression.
Yeah.
I mean, I found myself, wanting to be the fun manager, and with people that were not, you know, I was surrounded by people that were not where I wanted to be
Got it.
ultimately. which was okay. Like I enjoyed it. I met some great people, worked with some great folks, managed, supervised some great people. But I just was not around those people that, I wanted to aspire to be.
Right.
And I think it was holding me back.
Yeah. Well, and that's the when you know that you're the smartest man in the room, that's when you need to get out of that room, right?
Yes.
So so you get to this point then where there's this like breaking point of I'm done with the corporate world. I want to go try out this real estate thing. What was that breaking point for you?
Yeah. For me, it was a perfect opportunity. Immediately, my father wanted me to continue to apply for other jobs and find something stable. He's always been a calculated risk taker, meaning that he didn't really take many risks.
Mm-hmm.
And I, upon listening to Tom Kroll, and if you know anything about Tom Kroll and that group, just a very infectious, high energy type of guy. And just hearing all these different stories of real estate investors and people leveraging real estate to change their life, change their family lives for generation. Yeah, I was all in. I was just completely bought into that idea that I could do that too.
That's awesome. Okay. So you jump in 2016, and when did you jump in and when did you get your first deal? What was the gap between the decision and the first deal?
Yeah. So he introduced wholesaling to me in the middle of, December 2015. And, so the holidays were coming up. And so he said, hey, right after the new year, we're going to hit it hard. And so I started driving for dollars in that first month in January. I sent out my first mailing campaign, 1,000 postcards to a tax lien list. Had an appointment early February. Got my first deal under contract 6 weeks in, so middle of February,
Nice.
and I actually have the closing date. The deal that was my very first deal, 15K, closed March 8th, 2016. So from January to the first week in March, made 15K, and I was like, hey, this is real.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, that's pretty quick. Most people I've talked to, especially that, are seasoned veterans in this, they talk about, hey, it took a little bit of time to get that first deal. What do you think was the difference for you getting, your deal within the first 3 months? That's a pretty good fast track to getting that first deal.
Yeah, I think it was sheer luck. I mean, I could send out 5,000 postcards today and not get a deal under contract. I think it was just pure luck. Because I want to say if it was not that mailing, it was one shortly thereafter where I sent mail out with the wrong phone number on it. Like I made all the dumb direct mail
Right.
mistakes that everybody does. And so when you're getting started. And so for me to get a really good lead that very first mailing, I
Mhm.
think was pure luck. Um, One thing that I did do though is I built incredible rapport with the homeowner, and I just let myself shine through. And I think that is very important because people do deal business with people that they like.
Yep.
So I was very genuine in that. Um, Let me take that back. Mm, Tom Kroll as a mentor, that helped out a lot because
Okay.
he allowed me to focus on specifically that building rapport, letting yourself shine through, having a abundance mindset and just be very personable. So that instruction definitely helped me in that first seller relationship that I built. Just have her in a situation where she just wanted to do business with me. So I will say that that definitely played a big part in it. But just the fact that I got my first a 15K deal, my very first mailing of 1,000 postcards is still surprising to this day. But I was ready to act on it once I did get that
Yeah. Do you
opportunity.
think, I mean, if we're looking at today now, I don't know about your market, but starting postcards today, these sellers are just getting postcard after postcard after postcard. So do you think if you were starting today that you would be doing postcards?
No.
Okay. What would you do?
I would be going down to the probate office and probably sending personalized letters,
Mm,
maybe calling them as well. But I learned that that summer, just from a podcast, listening to, I want to say Joe McCall, interviewing Rick Ginn, and talking about, the probate process. And I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't have a poor mindset. So, what you call it poor for passing over opportunities repeatedly. You know, if it makes sense to me, I'm all in. Especially if it's something that I can just add on to my business model that's not going to completely take me left field. So, you know, going down to those probate offices, I knew that the numbers and the prospects that I collected had a level of motivation, that I could add value to their lives. So I would start with that, probably some uh, personalized letters to them,
Mm-hmm.
and small batch, but I would be super consistent with it.
Okay. So personalized letters, I'm sure the first thing people are thinking of is like, hey, I got a full-time job, like writing a personalized letter. That sounds like a lot of work. Any suggestions there for people that are pressed for time?
Yeah, there's a great Microsoft Word function that you can use. It's called mail merging. And if anybody's interested, I mean, if reaching out to me, I share that letter that I've used. It specifically addresses the probate process, and the fact that they may have initiated the probate of the estate of a loved one or family friend. Um, Over at my website, simmeroffers.com, there's links to my personal IG page. Send me a DM. I'll send over that letter. But you literally just load up on a Excel spreadsheet all of the sellers' names, addresses, and do 30 or 100 of
There you go.
those.
Okay.
And then you can mail merge their name and their address into that
Huh.
letter and hit print, and it'll print out those personalized letters. And you can either hand sign it or put a picture of your signature on it. So it can
Nice.
go really quickly, relatively.
Look at Microsoft Word stepping up their game. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah, look,
So,
you can mail merge not just a
yep.
letter. You can also mail merge the address. You can do the sticker address labels. So I would
Okay.
mail merge the letters and the address labels, and then I would have a sheet of my own return labels. So it's folding, applying 3 stickers and a stamp, sealing it, and off it goes.
There you go. Okay, cool. Well, I want to ask more about your first deal, but before I do, I want people to understand where your business is at, because I think if we bridge this gap to show that, hey, if you can get this first deal and here's how it was done, this is what your business could eventually look like with a little bit of dedication. So give us a brief snapshot into what your business today looks like, volume of what you're doing, maybe even what you're mainly doing for marketing, just a little brief summary there.
Yeah. So I transitioned to cold calling with the help of Mr. TTP in early 2017. So that very first year, we were just around 120. Year 2, I got close to 200K. Year 3, 7 figures.
Wow.
Same thing in year 8, right around 1.1 in total assignments. This year, it has been a little slower, but we'll do 500,000, and it's been mainly a drop off because I had a business partner in that. Once I started cold calling, I joined up with somebody. However, he had an opportunity to take on another business venture, and
Mm.
I started REI Live in my coaching. So we actually dissolved at the end of last year, literally at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So I completely started a fresh, fresh lead generation February of this year, and then March COVID happened. So
Wow.
we're getting back to, I'll be right back to where we were.
Okay.
But it has been a little slower, about at 500,000 this year, but we're back to the point where I'm getting 2-3 signed contracts each and every week, and primarily through cold calling, a group of a few cold callers, 2 to 3 at any given point, an acquisitions manager, a few
Mm.
administrative virtual assistants. I'm playing dispositions manager right now, but we're rebuilding what we had built over the last few years. But it's a high velocity business, where I'm at the point where I'm not talking to sellers
Yeah, that's good.
anymore, which is nice. And all it takes is investing in your marketing, staying consistent, and you too can have those same results.
Yeah, I mean, that's so good. I mean, the thing that I just want people to hear here is that, you were a frustrated and really just confused guy trying to go up the corporate ladder, struggling. And then you said yes to real estate. Within about a year, you're at 6 figures. Within 3 years, you're at 7 figures. I mean, that's how quickly this business can move, guys. So, I mean, tell me, all right, so now let's talk about that first deal. So it's you send out these letters, you get this call from the seller. I'm sure you're probably wondering, like, how in the world do I even do this meeting with this seller? Like, talk to me through all of the emotions and all of the process of this first buy.
Yeah, 100%. Again, the mentorship that I had early on that said, "Hey, just focus on everything other than the deal. Have conversation, get to know them,
Mhm.
chit chat, let them know about your background." And for me, I just focused on what I know best, which is myself, and to just have a general conversation and really connect with this homeowner. Um, I got it at a ridiculously low price. This townhome, I got it under contract for 20 grand. Could have
Wow.
easily sold it for 50 or 60.
Wow.
Because they rent out at $850, $900 a month, and it's not in a really bad area.
Okay.
So I just got it as low. And when I got it at 20 grand, I didn't even know if it was worth that much. And so I did this deal in spite of myself, in spite of not knowing anything. So, of course, going to that first appointment, it can be a little nerve wracking. Making sure that I didn't, lose the deal, and I needed money, right? But there was a few things that my initial mentor told me. Act as if you have $100,000 in your pocket. Don't be desperate.
Hmm.
Talk about everything under the sun, other than the deal. Just build incredible rapport, and then ask them when you get there, "Hey, if I could pay all cash and close quickly, what's the best price that you would consider if there were no real estate commissions to pay, and I took care of all the closing costs?" And just
Wow.
be quiet. And when I ask that question at the property or on the phone, and just get their best price, and say, I don't know, is that the best you can do? And really solidify that number, and then see if it works.
Yep.
And ultimately, we landed at a number that worked, and I shared it with my buddy and some buyers, and I actually ended up calling an agent that brought a buyer to the table, and the deal worked. So when all else fails, just try to get it as low as possible.
That's great.
Build incredible rapport, and make them want to do business with you. And that was how that one went.
That's awesome. Okay, so you said something early on there. Talk about everything except for the deal. I want you to tell people, like, what exactly you mean by that, because I'm sure there's some people like, wait, I thought you're there to talk about the deal.
Yeah. You want this to be as less of a pressure filled situation where you're like, in there negotiating from the start. You just want to get this person to like you,
Yep.
and want them to know that you're here to do honest business with them. They should get a sense of you. But also, I will say, have a level of confidence that you are going to get this deal done for them. So, though I want you to, though I suggest to just build rapport, be a nice guy, be a nice person, also give them a sense of confidence that you will be able to close on this deal. So, for instance, we talked about, yeah, that neighborhood. I had a buddy that lived up the street. Yeah, I just, actually, just got married last year. She talked about her situation. Her kids were, grown up. We just talked about general life
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
and let that conversation develop. And then when it was time to get closed, I asked her that question: "Hey, if I could pay all cash and close quickly, like, what's the best price that you would consider?" and
That's
and
good.
and, and be quiet. And so then, hey, well, I'm going to make this happen. And I'll reach back out. I'll actually get, and I don't take the contract in that first in that first meeting. I may have it in the
Really?
car. I'll
Okay.
maybe have a blank one in the car and say if they want to
Yeah.
write it up, then we will. I won't miss out on an opportunity to do that, but I'm not like there with a contract in their
Sure.
face, like, hey, let's sign right now. Just took it really easy and said, hey, well, I'm gonna get the best offer to you. I think that this can work and we can do this deal and move forward from there.
Yeah. Well, I like the way that it was put to you, of talk about everything except for the deal. I do it a little bit differently with my Airbnb students. We talk about the sales acronym FORM. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but family, occupation, recreation, and then your message while you're there. So it's very
Like,
similar. I mean, it's just a little bit more. Yours is just a mindset. Ours is a little bit more of like a step by step. Talk about family, talk about what they do for work, talk about what they do for fun, and then bring it up. And it's just about building a relationship, right? Because people do business with people that they like. And I think one of the things is that like you could say the exact same thing as someone else. You can have almost a similar conversation as someone else who's going in there. But at the end of the day, personability and being able to relate to someone and being able to just get them to see that you're a normal human being. You're not, just money hungry and trying
mhm,
to go in there and just snatch a deal out of their hands. And I think, too, what you said is really important about not being desperate. I don't know what the saying is. I can't remember, but I heard it recently. It was something to the effect of like the person who wants the deal the least has the most negotiating power.
mhm. I
So
like that.
if you just have that mindset of like, hey, I've got tons of deals. I don't care if I get this one. And you walk in with that mindset, you're not going to be that pen and paper. Like, are you ready to sign? You ready to sign? You ready to sign?
Right.
So I love that mindset. And I think mindset is the big thing there, right? Like if you just go with those mindsets, you're going to be putting yourself in a position to win. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Cool.
Totally.
Well, hey, Brandon, you've brought a ton of value. I love your story, man. I love that people are able to hear that story today. How are people able to connect with you moving forward? And what are some options? You mentioned your coaching program. If you want to talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, 100%. So, one thing that I did once I tried to take myself out of the business was put a process in place for being able to send more offers, because I think that was the biggest KPI for us that we were tracking. Hey, if we sent so many offers, we would the more offers we sent, the more signed contracts we would actually acquire. And so I put a process in place for sending more offers, and that's the drum that I beat. That's what I share with all my coaching students. So much so that I have my website is sendmoreoffers.com. And if anybody's interested in just learning kind of my approach to being able to send offers, even without seeing the property, and follow up until you get them signed, check out that website, sendmoreoffers.com, and then my personal IG and all that. There's links at the bottom of the homepage if you want to connect with me on social. Um,
Awesome.
but
Awesome, man. And then
that's
you've
it.
got a meetup group in Atlanta, right?
Yes, REI Live Atlanta. There's also a link on the homepage to
Okay.
REI Live ATL. And I miss doing them in person.
Right.
That monthly meetup aspect was really great. Especially because instead of me running around to a bunch of RIAs, they all came to me. But we're doing those virtual now, third Thursday, and through the Facebook group and on Zoom, people are able to still have a similar experience. We have Zach Booth coming on this month, driving for dollars guy.
How funny. I just had Zach on my show literally 2 days ago. So
Oh wow, yeah,
yeah,
great guy. So
awesome.
he's gonna be with us this coming October, I believe the 19th, that third Thursday.
Okay.
And so
Very
it's a
cool.
great group.
Awesome. Well, hey, Brandon, thanks so much. Is there any last words that you have for our audience before we log off here?
Yeah, for sure. Look, if in this business, if you're consistent, you continue to learn and develop, and seek coaching. With those three things in almost any business, you too can have success. It's worked for me, and if there's anything I can do to provide value as far as coaching and direction, I'd love to do so. But this has been great spending some time with you, Kyle.
All right. Thanks so much, Brandon. I appreciate you being with us and helping our audience to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you, man. All right, really easy on the show notes as usual, fearlesskyle.com/Brandon Barnes. Barnes is Barnes. And you can see all the resources that he was talking about there, including some of his coaching program. It's low entry fee. So, I mean, go ahead and give it a shot. Take a look. I think that he's just got a lot of knowledge there that can help you to be able to get your first deal and then some. But, I think the big thing there, I really loved what he had to say about talking to sellers and really making it relatable, just pretending like you're not even there for the deal. You're more there for building a relationship. And I think anything we do, especially when I talk about rental arbitrage, and my students are always asking like, hey, how do I bridge that gap? And how do I, bring up that conversation about renting out their place and then subleasing on Airbnb? It seems so uncomfortable. Well, it's a lot more comfortable when you've created a relationship with that person rather than just going straight for the jugular with business. So I love that mindset, and love that little tip that he had. Anyway, let's go ahead and get you over to the show notes. Once again, fearlesskyle.com/Brandon Barnes, where you can see everything that we talked about and get to his resources. That's it here today on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Thanks for joining us and allowing us to help you to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time.